Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday. Tuesday, Casual Tuesday. Wednesday, Casual Hump Day. Thursday, Casual Thurs. That's what we call it. And Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, March 10th, 2023. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Heather Parton, or you may know her as Digby, will be joining us to look back on the week that was. Also on the program, to tell us how he is ignoring the Oscars. Compare it with how I am ignoring the Oscars. Matthew Film Guy will be here. Meanwhile, new report, Manhattan prosecutors signal possible criminal charges for Donald Trump. I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Joe Biden releases his budget, includes almost $4 trillion in new taxes for wealthy people. Iowa poll supposedly shows Trump weakening. Don't believe the hype. RNC plans a delegate scheme to help DeSantis. And rumors report that DeSantis has told people privately he will run.
Oh, yes. We'd love to see it.
311,000 new jobs added, beating expectations. However, wage growth has slowed and the unemployment rate has inched up, which gives some a hope that the Fed will chill. Sworn declaration to the FBI claims that George Santos masterminded a 2017 ATM skimming fraud scheme.
Hardest working man in politics.
You really, you almost have got to admire it.
A lot of work. He's very resourceful. So the Saudis strike a diplomatic deal with Iran via China. Also announces it wants nukes for peace with Israel. The Republican weaponization of government against conservatives on Twitter hearings turned into a laugh riot yesterday. Also, speaking of laugh riots, Joe Manchin may challenge Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is, of course, the end of the week, Casual Friday. Allow me to introduce you to Emma Vigland.
What's her name
again? Had to think about that for a moment. Yeah, Emma. It was definitely something.
Yes.
Hello, Emma.
Hello.
How is your Casual Friday going so far?
Going great. Going well so far. I don't have much to add except for the fact that I really do kind of respect the hustle of George Santos, right? He has his finger in many pots.
How does he find so much time?
True entrepreneur.
So skilled.
Yeah.
So skilled. Now, we should say, it's somebody who I think was implicated in the scheme itself, his former roommate. But he's signed a declaration with the FBI, and I don't know.
Even finding roommates like that.
He has a lot of roommates too, right? Who seem to know things about him. But
you got to move him around. You got to keep on the move. Let's get right into it. More and more talk of who's going to be running for president. Obviously, we're starting to get into that zone now where hopefuls will have to declare, both in the Democratic and in the Republican primaries. DeSantis is out there saying privately that he's thinking about running, or I should say is going to run. We know that Joe Manchin reportedly is saying that he might run against Joe Biden. Of course, that would not be to win. It would just be to burnish how he is not in Joe Biden's pocket, because he's facing re-election as a senator, and it's a steep climb for him. And of course, it's also going to make Joe Biden look like the voice of reason. But Nikki Haley is also running. And one of the things that's interesting, we're starting to see, Donald Trump has been hammering Ron DeSantis on his positions on Social Security and Medicare, i.e., he wants to cut them. Donald Trump even warned the Republicans in the House, don't cut Social Security and Medicare. It is a voter's loser. Well, here is Nikki Haley trying to, I guess, reassert the ghost of responsible politicians who are willing to make the hard choices.
Ambassador, as you know, President Trump has said, and he's running against you for the nomination, that it's a big mistake for Republicans to even consider doing anything with Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid, that is going to guarantee defeat. I'm paraphrasing here. What do you say to that?
We have to be realistic. It is unrealistic to say you're not going to touch entitlements. The thing is, you don't have to touch it for seniors and anybody near retirement. You're talking about the new generation, like my kids coming up. You're talking about that. You've got to start thinking 10, 20, 30 years out. We can't just think about one presidential election. And we've got bigger issues, so we've got to start making bigger solutions for these problems.
You said...
So
wow,
this is
very bad at this.
well, I mean, this is something that they always talk about, that nobody at the age of 50 or 55 is going to have to worry about their Social Security. It's just the people who are paying into it, who've been paying into it from like age, I don't know, 20, 18 to 55. And then future generations who are going to be immiserated in the same way that people were immiserated before Social Security was rolled out. There's a big opportunity to help Social Security. It's super easy. Raise the cap on what income gets taxed by Social Security. Just raise it back to where it captures the normal percentage of income generated by Americans, like it used to be at 91%. And now it touches about 86%. So get that 5% back, because all that money is being hoarded by ultra wealthy people. Just raise the cap.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
I mean,
Got to be realistic.
Marjorie
Gotta be
Taylor Greene
realistic.
yelled a liar out when Biden said during the State of the Union that Republicans were trying to cut Social Security and Medicare. I mean, but like that's as foundational to the Republican Party as anything. Trump's an anomaly because he sometimes like is able to effectively put his finger to the wind and see where it's blowing and knows that we shouldn't touch this. But she's an ideologue. She's old school. And I don't think there's an appetite for that at all.
And understand, like, you know, like he thinks he can become president. And he knows last time he became president, he was able to cut his taxes. He knows that they're not going to raise, you know, this is, and to be clear, there's two elements about this, right? About Social Security. One, they don't want to raise taxes on wealthy people in any shape or form. But the other thing that people have to understand is by immiserating retired people, what it does is it makes people less likely to retire, because I don't have the money in my Social Security account to live a decent life, so I'm going to continue to work. That lowers wages for working people. It depresses wages for working people. It increases the need for younger people to take care of their parents, which also decreases their leverage in the workforce. This is all about attacking workers and their power, and labor and their power. That's what this is about. And then also there's, I think, a desire to push more money into the stock market. So the value is spread around to a bunch of different people. But
they want to expand that workforce. We have Sarah Huckabee Sanders in Arkansas signing into law a bill that gets rid of a lot of paperwork necessary for children under 16 to be working. They want
what that's about.
Yeah, well, that's to undercut unions, and then they can pay lower wages to those kids. But then it's on both ends, right? You make the retirement age higher so there's more people in the workforce, and lower so kids can be exploited more, and that just gives more leverage to the bosses.
And let's be clear about that Sarah Huckabee Sanders thing. That is so that employers in Arkansas can hire migrant children laborers. That's what that's about. Because all of the paperwork, if you really want your kid to work at age 16 or 15, you fill out the paperwork to assure that, you as a parent have certified this and et cetera, et cetera. But the reason why they don't want the paperwork is because she wants to allow Arkansas companies and factories and to hire child migrant labor. And if they require paperwork, then it's traceable. And that's what that's all about. Mm-hmm. For every kid, citizen under the age of 16 who works, there's going to be like half a dozen or a dozen migrant kids who are going to end up working in these factories with absolutely no protections. Many of whom who are there not necessarily with their parents, maybe they're their uncles or their aunts or friends. So horrible, just disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they see there's no contradiction between protecting kids from drag shows and protecting kids from working in a slaughterhouse. Because, well, those are just migrant kids. They don't count.
Exactly. We're going to talk to Heather Parton in just a moment, but a couple words from our sponsors today. Sunset Lake Sebede, one of my favorite.
One of Sam's favorite sponsors, Sunset Lake.
I'll have to.
You guys want to grab me just really quickly?
I'm sorry. Am I frozen?
You were.
No, you're back. Sorry
yep.
about that.
Okay.
SunsetLakeSebede.com. You generally, if you go there, you can use coupon code Left is Best, get 20% off. But right now, they are having a huge 25% off sale if you use the coupon code EXTRA on all of their new, of all of their existing and their new rubs. Sunset Lake has a new extra strength muscle rub. As hemp hauling farmers, they made their new extra strength muscle rub with one goal in mind: relief from sore muscles, those deep tissue aches. And if you like their salve, you're going to love their new rub. Has 3 times as much CBD as their hemp salve. Sunset Lake's extra strength muscle rub is made with quality ingredients like beeswax, organic shea butter, arnica. They've added some new ingredients like menthol, camphor, and lidocaine to help loosen stiff muscles and provide maximum relief. Check it out. Starting today, all of Sunset Lake's CBD topicals are 25% off when you use this code EXTRA at checkout. SunsetLakeCBD.com. Try this new muscle rub. The sale ends March 12th. All
right, guys. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. Are we good?
Yep, you're good now.
Okay. So SunsetLakeCBD.com. 25% off when you use the code EXTRA at checkout. Also,
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, guys. We're having some connectivity issues. When you get back, Sam, let me know what you want to do. All right. We might need to take a break, guys. Let's...
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break here. All
right, I'm back. All right, sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's going on. As you know, I'm very uptight about getting my identity stolen. Not really my identity, but my online identity, my social security number, my
We hear you, but we don't see you.
Oh, there
now
we go.
you're- Yep.
All right. Emma, do you have the aura?
I don't, but
We'll print it
Bradley
out.
can send it to me in a sec. Why don't
All
you
right.
just
Why don't you do
drop
that? I'm
off?
going to just see what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll just take a quick break.
We are back, and one of our other favorite sponsors, Aura. Aura. I mean, Sam loves to mess with some of these fake scam callers, but all of you guys have probably gotten them. I've gotten them before, family and friends who have received them, let alone like phishing attacks where they target people, send me this money, all that kind of stuff.
Don't click the links, folks.
Yes, do not do that. But also get Aura to give yourself extra protection. Aura is an easy-to-use app that includes everything that you need to stay safe online. Aura protects you from scammers and hackers by scanning the so-called dark web, where criminals sell stolen information looking for your emails, passwords, and social security numbers. It alerts you fast if it finds anything. If Aura finds any of your private information on the dark web, they will alert you immediately. The Aura helps you fight back against those annoying websites that make your personal information public by automatically requesting removal of your info. This helps reduce robocalls, which are as annoying as it gets. Or it gives you near real-time alerts on suspicious credit inquiries, like if someone was opening a loan or credit card in your name. Their VPN allows you to stay anonymous online by keeping your browsing history and personal information safe and encrypted. And they protect you from devices, devices might be working on hacking you, but they protect your devices from viruses, malware, spyware, and more, so the bad guys can't break in. Aura even helps you manage what your kids can do on their devices. You can restrict specific apps, set screen time limits, and even set focus time to ensure your child is doing their homework instead of binging YouTube. That is quite helpful because I know that a lot of parents have problems with that. And Aura's password manager lets you store and access your online passwords securely and conveniently. Maybe you already have an app, a few apps to do these kinds of things. Maybe you get alerts on your phone, but it's like overwhelming, at least for me, and completely inconvenient. With Aura, you don't have to download and pay for 7 separate apps. It's right there all in one. Let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online. If you sign up right now, Aura will give you a 2-week free trial. With my link, you will be shocked at how much of your private information Aura finds exposed over those 2 weeks during that free trial. And you can get that free trial for 2 weeks by going to aura.com, aura.com/majority to start your free trial. Also linked below in the description, or you can scan the QR code, aura.com/majority. All right, we're going to take a quick break, figure some stuff out, and then we'll be talking to Digby.
We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigland, joining us. The person who inspired this little ditty.
Are you ready for some pee-pee? Yeah.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I keep it under me as a bed. Heather Parton writes at salon.com, but you may know her as, well, that wasn't exactly a bed. That did cut out. Digby from the blog Hullabaloo. Digby, always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
We should just say, I just want to announce this breaking news, which I think is going to have some very big implications. We won't talk about this, just happened moments ago, but Silicon Valley Bank was shut down by regulators. I'm not sure why. The FDIC steps in, but Silicon Valley Bank apparently is like the bank for all the people in Silicon Valley, all the big moneyed people. And they can't get their money out until Monday. But I think more relevantly for that area than anywhere else, FDIC only insures up to $250,000. There's this, it's like this is the company that this is the bank that backs all the venture, the VC people, and they probably have a little more than 250 people could be losing some money there. There's going to be a little bit of panic on the West Coast. So news has just dropped, but let's get to some earlier news this week, Heather, or actually more recent, and then we'll work our way back.
Okay.
Joe Biden unveiled his budget. I guess it was yesterday. And I have to say, as far as these documents go, and again, it's not going to be approved by Republicans, and it probably wouldn't have been approved by Joe Manchin if the Republicans hadn't controlled the House. But it's a pretty good looking budget, as it were.
It's excellent. I mean, it's exactly what you would hope that a Democratic president would propose. And as you say, it's not going anywhere. These presidential budgets usually don't go anywhere, even if they have a big majority in Congress. There's so many things that enter into whether or not, it's going to be approved. That everybody's got their own hobby horses and what have you. But what it does do, and it's especially important at this point in the election cycle, is that it has the president putting out his or her priorities, and setting the stage for the economic agenda for the Democratic Party going forward. And to that extent, this is I can't say that I'm unhappy with what he put out, because if that's the case, if that's where they're going, they're not backing off on the economic issues that they were pushing in the first 2 years, and are basically going to push forward with presenting those things to the public as the Democratic platform and economic platform and agenda. So it's, I think it's pretty good news to the extent that it does that. It's not going to pass. Obviously, we're about to go into a complete, nightmare of a showdown over here over the debt ceiling, and all this stuff is going to fall away. But at least he's put out a marker. This is what we believe in. And these guys over here, let's see what they come up with.
And I just want to add one caveat to this. The defense part of this budget is absurd. I mean, it was absurd 5 years ago when it was $770 billion. And it's been absurd every time after that, every time Congress has added more money than sometimes even the administration has asked. This time he decided to get out in front of it and ask for more money. It's something like almost $850 billion. It is extraordinary, the amount of money that we spend on defense. A lot of this is like, sort of a ramp up against China. It feels like we should say that Australia just recently made a deal to do nuke subs with the U.S. as a sort of like a vague threat to China. I mean, so we should say that this is with that caveat. And
I assume, by the way, that some of that had to be sort of trying to get, put a marker out there for the Ukraine policy as well. I don't know that to be true, but I assume that that's part of it, which is saying, we're going to continue to spend this money. And some of it I almost thought was just a political thing Not that I'm giving them any excuses, because Democrats and Republicans both are always ridiculous on this, on the defense budget, but you know.
I just think it needs to be said in the larger context of like the reopening of those Philippines military bases, that being another deal with Australia, and then of course we actually had someone on yesterday to talk about how like the United States' attempt to broker normalized relations between Japan and South Korea is another way just to. We're increasing this militarization against China, and I think it's concerning. But
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And there's not a lot of discussion or debate about it. I don't think people understand it. It's all being it's just being done. And I don't think that look, this is bipartisanship in action here. I think and that's in the sense of China, there's no dissent. Even from the wingnut Republicans, they're even worse than the Democrats on this. So that is something to be watching out for, and it could get very dicey over the next few years. But aside from that, and that's a lot, and I agree, you have to discuss this when you're discussing this budget, because this is a huge amount of money. And there isn't any much dissent about it. So that's, one of the problems. But the rest of it, as far as the domestic program is concerned, it seemed to me that Biden had all the right priorities and was willing to come out and say, we're going to tax people. He's raising taxes on wealthy people. He's raising the cap on the Medicare contributions to shore up the Medicare program. These are real things. And he's basically saying, look, this is how we do this. People want all this good stuff. They really do, even though the Republicans will say they don't want it. This is how we're going to do it. And he's raising taxes on wealthy people and corporations in order to finance a decent 21st century society at home. And meanwhile, the other side is just going, we only care about our people. We don't care about anybody else in the world. And yet this budget that they're going to come out with, probably it's going to be another couple months, because they really don't know what to do, the Republicans.
Well, I would just add on the defense thing. And again, there is also this element of, now he's filling it full. A lot of that money is spent on woke stuff. But But no,
it's all very, honestly, very woke. It's super awake.
With the Republicans basically pretending that they're going to cut the defense budget, and they're going to cut woke stuff, it actually creates an incentive for him to inflate those numbers, so that maybe they get to a deal by cutting some of those numbers. I mean, they're
never going to do that. They're never going to do that.
I mean, that's the thing, is that invariably what happens is everybody signs on, but then it's, of course, a political loss for the Republicans in that sense, because they were prancing around talking about how much of the wokeness they were going to cut from the military budget. So we should just say.
And I would also guess that they're doing it slightly for the benefit of some of those, Democrats in moderate districts, to give them a chance to kind of, they can roll, but say, well, we didn't go along with all that big spending and cut it back a little bit. There's always that element in there where they're trying to give those frontline districts or whatever. And, the Senate, which, keep your eye on this, because there are a bunch of senators in red states that are up in 2024. They're very worried about it. People like Tester and Sherrod Brown and others, Democrats in red states who are, they are definitely have a battle on their hands. And so they're trying to give them some room to be, to pretend to be conservatives. I mean, that's basically what that's all about. So that factors in.
But everything else you said, I mean, he's basically rolled out a lot of the Build Back Better stuff.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's not going to pass in this form. It wouldn't have passed even if he had control of both houses. But it does shift where the conversation is, shift into what is this is about as sort of corporate-y, mainstreamy, a Democrat who's been in the Senate for 50 years, burnishing those credentials. And he's coming out with $2 trillion over 10 years for childcare, pre-K, community college, Medicaid, as you say, and more. $4 trillion, $2 trillion of deficit reduction. I personally am not so exercised about deficit reduction, but I like it insofar as it can function. Deficit talk can function in two different ways, right? Deficit talk can function as a way for corporatists, Republican corporatists. Sometimes it's redundant. And, you know, some of these sort of like so-called moderate Democrats who are really conservatives. It gives them an opportunity to cut programs for people. But deficit reduction right now is being utilized by the Biden administration as a call to raise taxes on wealthy people. And I like those taxes being raised on wealthy people because it impacts income disparity.
Yes.
And so this, and you and I, Heather, have been railing on the deficit hawkery for years because we know that it's been a sort of fig leaf for cutting programs. Here, I think it's the first time you and I have ever seen a budget that you see the deficit hawkery being used as a justification for raising taxes. And that's, I love that. I mean, I don't, you know, again, I'm not so worried about the deficit, but if it can be employed to use as a cudgel to raise taxes, then great. You know, but the only danger, I guess, is that we still have not tackled the question of the deficit. But I don't know who's going to do that. Like, I'm going to dedicate my presidency to making the American public understand they shouldn't be so deficit panicked. Like, what's the, you know, like that's a lot of, it seems to a high price to pay. And I'm not sure what the return is in the short term on that.
I'm not sure either. I mean, you know, there's the whole modern monetary theory, the MMT thing about the deficit, which is persuasive to me, but it's complicated and it's not an easy thing to sort. It's counterintuitive to, I think, most people. It was to me, you know, and I finally had to, you know, sort of delve in and get it. But you know, I think I agree with you. I mean, I think for the most part, this is just going to be something that's always going to be part of our, you know, political, you know, debate, mainly because of modern monetary theory, which says that deficits don't really matter. And they don't. So nothing will be done and we'll just keep arguing about it and then just keep going forward. I mean, there's just no appetite anywhere for anybody to actually do something about it, mainly because it doesn't really matter. So we just kind of keep going forward with it's kind of a kabuki dance that people do. So to that extent, I totally agree with you. I hadn't even thought about this, but that's absolutely right. What putting, you know, taxing the wealthy, you know, for a completely different purpose, by the way. I agree with you completely. Income inequality is a problem in itself, regardless of where the money is going. Massive problem. So trying to equalize that by whatever means they can do that, if it's going toward this kabuki dance of deficit reduction, I'm fine with that because we really have to do something. Our society is so out of balance now, economically speaking. I mean, you live in a city, so do I. You walk down the street and you see it right in front of your eyes. Yep. Multi-million dollar, you know, buildings and homes and whatever with, you know, a vast number of homeless people living on the street. It couldn't be more stark. This has got to be dealt with in some way. And one of the ways you have to do it is to sort of, I think, just find a way to equalize it, however you do it, because on the merits, it's a good idea no matter where the money goes. So I'm with you on that. And I hadn't even thought about that, but that was, I mean, I don't know that that's a motivation on the part of the administration, but I kind of think it might be. I mean, they've got economists there who are looking at income inequality. They have to be seeing it.
Yeah, I don't know if they even think it's going to happen, but I think the idea that they, you know, the idea of the wealthy paying their fair share is something you heard even like Bill Clinton talk about.
Absolutely.
And this was not a guy whose policies were in any way inhibiting of wealth inequality. I mean, to really tackle wealth inequality, you need to have a much higher top marginal rate than even Biden is talking about here. But if you're going to accept the premise that the deficit is a problem, and that it's irresponsible not to address the deficit. I like the idea of the responsible way to address the deficit is to tax wealthy people so that they don't,
Yes.
so that they pay down the deficit, but really it's so that they don't have as much money.
Right.
I mean, that's basically it. I mean, we should be doing this. We should be doing, we should be doing it with a wealth tax, frankly, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. I mean, we used to talk about this all the time. In the 50s, wasn't it? It's like a 90%.
In the 50s and the 60s,
yeah.
leading up to Jack Kennedy, every dollar made over at that time about $470,000 was taxed at 90%, equivalent to $3 million today.
Seems fine to me. I mean, I'd be happy if that's what it takes to, if that's making America great again, if that's what they're talking about, count me in. I mean, that's the days that the Trump people all want to go back to. Well, that's one aspect of it I could sign on to for sure.
Without a doubt. That is, but I don't know if we're going to get there so much.
Well,
but
at least they're trying something. I mean, they're not completely going over to the other side as we've seen so many times before. So
exactly.
That's starting off giving it away.
And they're there's two ways to tighten that belt, I guess. One is to make cuts. The other is to do enough exercise that you're not taking, I don't even know I don't know what the analogy is there. That's too much.
Well, I think one of the things that this may be one of the strange sort of positive benefits of Trumpism, which is that he's come in with this populist, kind of notion. And his populism is completely all over the place. It's in code. It's mostly culture war. But nonetheless, there is this sort of an element there with his support for Social Security and Medicare and some various things that may somehow be penetrating a little bit into the to our social consciousness about the idea that that it's not that all these rich people are getting away with murder. I mean, they had managed to brainwash a lot of the right wing in this country for many, many years to believing. And I remember hearing people on Rush Limbaugh's show calling in and saying, well, I just want my boss not to pay more taxes because that means I'll get more money. I mean, that's a brainwashing, bullshit, right? Completely nuts. And maybe this is sort of shifting that just a little bit. Yes, Donald Trump is rich and they worship him. But maybe over time there'll be a little bit more consciousness about this. I mean, I don't hold out a lot of hope, but it's maybe a slight inroad somewhere in there to kind of disassociating this in their minds, the idea in their minds that rich people really need to keep every penny of their money, that it's a benefit to them.
I am less optimistic about that. Although I just think that let's put it this way. Deficit reduction has always been a cudgel whenever it comes up, has always been a cudgel used to cut programs for people. Yep. And it's always been weaponized by the right. They forfeited that over the course of the Trump years. Paul Ryan was essentially, excommunicated from the party, as it were. Paul Ryan's a liability to Ron DeSantis even today.
Yep.
And so if deficit reduction has been orphaned on the right and it is adopted by the nominal left, by the Democrats, let's say, as a mechanism in which to increase taxes, that in and of itself, that shift means that we can save our powder for other fights,
right?
Because that's headed in the right direction. And it feels like as long, the real issue has always been those, supposed bipartisan special committees that are supposed to come take a look at the deficit or whatever it is, or, Barack Obama, we need to tighten our belt and this and that. If we can get away from that rhetoric, and we don't have to fight that rear guard fight, essentially, from the Democratic Party. And when they talk about deficit reduction, all they're talking about is taxation. That's a good thing. That means that,
totally
there's
agree.
other resources to deploy other places to have fights.
Agreed.
Let's talk about what took place last weekend. This is another thing that you and I have been following for over a decade more. And that is the CPAC. And it went from, well, I want to say it went from like the lunatic fringe, but it's always just been the lunatic fringe. But we should also say it's always been the central heart of the Republican Party. I mean, I remember when CPAC people were showing up in 2005, complaining that George W. Bush was not conservative enough for them. And what everything you find at that place is like a preview for where the Republican Party is going.
That's absolutely true. I mean, it's been just as you say. I mean, I remember I've been following CPAC for as long as you have. I mean, we've been watching this thing every year. They'd all get together, and yes, it was. I mean, they'd have people. They'd have all the Republican dignitaries would show up and give speeches. I mean, it wasn't like they, boycotted it or anything because it was too loony. They were in there they were searching for votes and support and money and everything else. But this was the beating heart of the Republican Party as reflected in the Republican media. To me, looking back in the 90s when I was looking at CPAC, it was talk radio all the way. I mean, this was Rush Limbaugh's, these were Rush Limbaugh's people. And today it's a little more widespread. There's QAnon now, but nonetheless, it's always been that. And they were always selling a bunch of junk. The grift was always obvious at CPAC. They had this whole hall down there where they're selling stuff like, happiness is Hillary's face on a milk carton. That was and that's their idea of humor, at CPAC. And they were selling, like Aunt Jemima, pancake mix or waffle mix with Barack Obama's face. I mean, it was they're gross. They're just gross people. And everything about it was always gross. And they had Ann Coulter there, and she would say stuff she would make use racial epithets and talk about shooting Bill Clinton, and they'd all scream wildly, yeah, So tell me that Donald Trump was a surprise, right? No. I mean, this stuff was brewing, and that it was the beating heart of the Republican Party long before Donald Trump actually he piggybacked on what was already going on.
Totally.
So now, and he's been a big star at CPAC ever since 2015. This year was very interesting because there were two things happening. The first is that somehow, this is this rift. I wouldn't call it a schism or a break, but there's a rift in the Republican Party that has to do with the establishment and Donald Trump, the same one that's sort of been there since 2016. They think they have an opening this time, maybe to sort of separate him and maybe find a way around him, although it's delusional because they cannot find a way around him. He's an immovable force in the Republican Party. But the CPAC had this, it was his CPAC. Ron DeSantis didn't go. He went to the Club for Growth donor meeting, which says something. Mike Pence did too. Mm-hmm. You had Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo. They went to both. They went to CPAC and they went to the donor meeting. So, there's your straddle for you, right?
The VP crew. That's
the VP crew. Yeah, exactly. So, what you could see there was this rift, and CPAC this year, as compared to previous years, was kind of a desultory, dull affair. Not that they weren't gross, because they are always gross. That's just who they are. But it was as Donald Trump would say, low energy, right? I mean, there was just even his speech, which he made one very important comment that will be remembered historically. He said, I am your voice, I am your justice, I am your retribution. I mean, I guess, vengeance is mine, saith Donald Trump. That was his message to the crowd. But even that crowd, the room wasn't full at CPAC, and people were leaving.
Digby, yeah, I mean, I am really interested in DeSantis's kind of strategy here, right? Which is to shy away from the CPAC crowd. It reminds me also of what he was doing when Trump was in East Palestine. He was doing his crime tour, going to Philly, to New York, and to Chicago, and speaking to police unions. Mm-hmm. And who are we speaking to here? right? I mean, are you trying to get votes, or are you trying to kind of shore up support from a general infrastructure of conservatives? That is a terrible strategy in my view, and is the contrast between the two and their political understanding becomes more obvious by the day. And that point that you made, it just paired with what he was doing in the weeks prior to this. I mean, he's bad at this, I think.
I think you're right. I am really, and here's a couple of more data points to support what you just said. DeSantis, came out with some polling just, I think it was yesterday, that showed that they were polling in Florida. His woke campaign, woke, Florida is where woke goes to die. Woke, woke, woke. He's every other word he says is woke, is not popular in Florida. Floridians, the people who voted for him, are not into that. Now, I think that DeSantis has made a bet. I think he thinks that by doing all this woke, woke, woke stuff, that he's going to be able to grab that Trump MAGA crowd, that they're going to say, okay, fine. But I mean, that's assuming that Trump's not going to say anything about him going and sucking up to the Paul Ryan, Karl Rove. And in fact, he's already doing this on Truth Social. Trump is already saying that, that DeSantis is part of the Jeb Bush crowd. I mean, I don't know how much Trump paid Jeb Bush to come out and endorse Ron DeSantis.
That's about my first reaction was like, is Jeb Bush really that hostile to Ron DeSantis that he wants to completely?
Why would he do that to him?
Well, I think that they're trying to make Ron DeSantis be a moderate to the general Republican to win back a suburban voter type. I mean, that's why Nikki Haley will be
he's the compromise candidate.
But it's insane because he's a fascist, and just because he went to frickin' Yale doesn't make him a moderate that's going to be accepted. I mean, the Republican donors will have to accept him, I guess. But once he crosses that Rubicon, once he's in with those guys, they're going to have different benchmarks for him to hit, right? He has to appeal to them at a certain point, and then he's even further away from the base that he's trying to covet, because that they're going to try to get him to play ball with the Club for Growth crowd. So that's he is making a deal with the devil that's never going to get him elected, in my opinion.
No, and I'm not even sure it can get him the nomination.
Right.
Here's a little thing that has happened in the last week or so. You remember Ken Cuccinelli, right? The Cooch, they used to call him. He was the lieutenant governor of Virginia, and he was Trump's DHS chief or acting head of DHS. He's been sort of I don't know why he's considered some big deal, I guess, in the establishment, and why, I don't know. It's kind of just tells you something about the establishment. But everybody's been wondering, is he going to back Trump, right? Because he was in the Trump administration, maybe he would. Well, apparently yesterday he came out and he's going to be in charge of a draft DeSantis movement, which is very interesting because Cuccinelli has been spending the last few months going out to Republican officials in the states and talking to them about potentially changing the rules of the delegate, of how they count delegates. The Republican Party is very different than the Democrats because they have a winner-take-all system in most states, which gives Trump a real boost if there's a crowded field.
Right.
We've all talked about this because Trump has a solid base of support. We figure it's probably about 30% of the Republican Party that loves him and will vote for him no matter what. Which, if there's more than a few people in the race, that means that he can win with a plurality. He wins the state. He wins he gets all the delegates.
Even if Meatball Ron gets 22% and I get 30, I get 100% of the delegates.
I get 100%.
And then Meatball Ron, he's a couple of pieces of pasta short. Because you can't add up the 20% here and the 20% there, and then he wins one place.
Or Tiny D, as I like to call it.
Tiny delegates.
Tiny delegates. That's what we're talking about.
Tiny delegate count.
Cuccinelli's been running around trying to change that system and turn it more into the way the Democrats do it, which is that it's proportional, which they're thinking then it can be a cage match, right? At the end of the day between Tiny D, Meatball Ron, and Trump, and they can and he can actually eke out a victory, even if it's even if there's a bunch of other people in the field. So they're doing all this kind of stuff, right? I mean, there's the establishment kind of going ahead. Now, here's the rub. Most of these Republican parties in the states, they're Trumpers. I mean, look what just happened to Michigan, right? Michigan's got QAnon people running the Republican Party. I mean,
Right.
It is completely a mess. And that is true across the board. The people who Trump has inspired over the past 6-7 years, they're engaged. They're playing in Republican politics now. So I don't think that's going to work. Let's just say, as looking at this, and CPAC really convinced me of this. This Republican primary is going to be super, super interesting. I mean, dangerous as hell, because whether it's DeSantis or Trump, who knows what could happen. It's a nightmare scenario for either way. But this is something we haven't seen before. We're going to watch this thing unfold. I'm still betting on Trump winning. I mean, I just think he has too many people who really like him in the party still. I mean, people underestimate this. They think it has something, that it's some kind of, abstract thing. A lot of Republicans, and not just his hardcore base, by the way, I mean, they worship him. There's a whole bunch of other ones who think Trump's pretty good. He was pretty good. I mean, yeah, he's a little bit of a loudmouth. I don't like the tweets, but he was a good president. Really liked him. I mean, I don't know why they're that insane to actually think that, but they do. And yet you've got this battle going on with the Trumpers in the House now, doing all this weaponization stuff. I mean, they're crazy. They're completely, out of their minds. And you've got moderates, or the senators, Mitch McConnell and his people kind of going, hey, can you guys cool it, because it's getting a little weird. Tucker Carlson out there bringing January 6th up again, and Kevin McCarthy helping him. That was another thing. Who paid Kevin McCarthy to give the footage to Tucker Carlson? That's not helping. I mean, that they don't want to talk about January 6th anymore, because that's not a really popular thing, even among, they want the suburban moms that have defected to the Democrats since 2018 to come back. Talking about January 6th isn't going to help. So this is an extremely fascinating dynamic, and it's absolutely true that this Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump battle is really a battle for the future of the Republican Party. And I got to say, at this point, I'm still betting on Trump.
I agree. I would make that same bet. I do think the thing to really watch for is this delegate thing, because that is the secret weapon that Trump has. Because unless they coalesce around Ron DeSantis before the first primary, which I think is unlikely, then it becomes that dynamic where it's winner take all, and the 30% that Trump is sort of locked in on, and maybe the 35 or 38% that he can expect in most of these places, is going to be enough for him to get 100% of the delegates. But here's the other thing. If they change it, Trump is going to attack them and say, this is rigged.
Right.
They rigged it just like they rigged it with Bernie Sanders. And I'm not going to engage in this. And so that's his
real secret weapon, right? I mean, he has this 30% and he can do with it what he wants. Everybody knows. I mean, he is not going to graciously concede. We know that much. I think that it's safe to say Donald Trump is not going to graciously concede, no matter if he loses by whatever means, right? He's not going to do that. Is he going to endorse the thing? Does he care about the Republican Party? Of course not. He has out there, and he even mentioned it the other day in some sort of vague thing, I can't remember specifically what it was, about a third party run. Well, maybe that's on the menu if certain things happen. They asked him if he would endorse, if he would agree before the debates, like the RNC is saying they're going to demand. They have to agree to support the eventual candidate. He said, well, I don't know. It depends on who the candidate is. Okay, this is not.
I'll agree if it's fair. If it's fair, I need it to be fair, and everyone wants it to be fair. And if it's fair, then I'll agree. But if it's not fair, then I won't agree.
And if
I'll
he's not
agree if it's fair.
if he's not at the debates, he skipped a debate before, and he still won that nomination in 2016.
Exactly, and he knows that, and he knows that his. I mean,
No one
this is
will
what
watch
he
the
has.
debate.
He has
No
30
one. Boring, boring.
Low
like
ratings.
Pompeo,
Yeah, low
and
ratings,
Nikki
yeah.
Haley, and Ron Little D. I mean, give me a break.
tiny D,
Tiny.
Tiny D.
Tiny D.
Tiny D.
tiny D, tiny meatball. So yeah, I mean, this is what he has. This is the secret weapon that he has in his hand. Is that they know that he will say this it was rigged, and he will convince his people not to vote for this guy, maybe in the general. I mean, that we have no doubt that he would take it all the way to the end. I mean, Donald Trump's, his whole personality, his psyche is in crisis over the fact that he lost that election. It's not going in 2020. He is not going to be able to do it in 2024, and they know this. They just, really, I read some article. I can't remember what it was. It was in Politico, I think, that said a lot of them are just hoping he drops dead on the golf course.
Right,
That's
exactly.
really their plan. Well, he's old, so
Could happen.
Could happen. Let's, fingers crossed. I mean, that's really the plan, because if he doesn't drop dead on the golf course, he is still playing. And as long as he's playing, he has this group of people who are devoted to him, and he will not concede. And I don't know what you do with that other than, nothing. Like I said, he's an immovable object. They cannot get around this guy. They can't do it. Don DeSantis can try all he wants, but it's not going to make any difference, because the people who follow Trump, and it's a large group of people in the Republican Party. It is a very, very important, plurality in the Republican Party, and they're not going to, they're not going to go, okay, well, we love you, Don, but love you, Trumpy, but we're moving to Ron. It's not going to happen.
I think you're right about that, and it will definitely be interesting to see. And I think that delegate thing is really the key. And I frankly, I still am surprised. I should rephrase that. I would not be surprised if DeSantis decided not to run this go round.
It'd be the smart move, I think. They always say to presidential candidates, look, your time, it happens. You've got a window that's open and you got to go through it, now whatever. But to me, the smart move for DeSantis would have been to wait this one out, because there was just no doubt that Trump was going to make a mess of it no matter what. No matter what was happening, this was just, unless he did drop dead on the golf course, this was going to be a big, messy, horrible thing. And the party itself, just forget Trump even. The whole party is a mess. I mean, look at this House, majority. They're completely out of their minds, and they're controlled by this crazy group of people. DeSantis, if he really wanted to be a president, of distinction, should have said, look, I got to keep my eyes on Florida. This is my state. I just won. this is not the right time for me, and not do it. And it is possible that he could decide not to at the end of the day. Look at what happened to Scott Walker last time, right?
Yep.
I mean, he ran and then, dropped out after the very first debate. So.
All right. Well, Heather, we've run out of time. Next time you're on, we should talk maybe about the potential for Joe Manchin to be challenging Joe Biden.
Oh my God.
Marianne Williamson challenging Joe Biden. I mean, personally, like, I would like someone with sort of more political bona fides to run and represent that voice. But I think it's important that we have someone out there advocating for more left policies. I just wish it was someone who was, sort of, more akin, more sort of really based in politics, in
serious
in policies. Yeah. I mean, I think, but someone's got to carry that message.
Yeah.
I just, and Joe Manchin, of course, is just going to burgeon his Senate hopes, I think, by running, which at the end of the day, I don't think, if it helps him retain, a Democratic vote in that Senate seat, just for the sake of the judiciary, it's not like we have an option that there's going to be some Democrat out there who's going to win that seat. That's just not going to happen. He probably will lose that Senate seat And also I wanted to talk about the Twitter stuff, the weaponization panel, but we'll be able to. I have sadly
They're not going anywhere.
We'll have to talk about that in the future too. Of course, we will touch on that in the fun half a little
It's
bit
the
later.
biggest story since the 2008 financial crisis, so there'll be more time to get to
Of
it.
course.
My God, yes, the nightmare, yes.
Where are those weapons of mass, shadow banning?
Mass
repression.
deboosting.
Yeah.
Really amazing. They really blew the lid off that.
Boy, they sure did.
We will, Heather, always a pleasure.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It was fun. You guys have
Thanks,
a great
Heather.
weekend.
You too.
You are so welcome.
All right, we got to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll be talking to Matthew Film Guy, and he will tell us his Oscar picks, which I think turn out to be probably films that haven't even been nominated. We'll be right back after this. You know, folks, it is always a treat when we have two guests in one show that both have their own theme songs.
Matthew the Film Guy is choosing your streams. Cassavetes on Netflix and other such themes. Maybe I'll watch one and learn a few things.
It's too hard to watch Matthew listen to his own song.
Oh, am I on?
It really is difficult. Matthew, a Film Guy, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me as always, Sam.
So this is exciting. Oh, Emma's here too. Wait, what are you drinking? What are you drinking?
Thanks for having Emma too. Hi, Emma.
Wait, what are you drinking? What are you drinking?
Just some Jazz Daredevil whiskey highball.
Oh my God, dude. It is 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You're going to get wasted. That stuff is too strong.
This segment is now brought to you by Jazz Daredevil whiskey highball, because last time I was on, it got back to Benjamin and he wound up sending me like a couple 4-packs. So I'm contractually obligated now if I want to get more Jazz Daredevil whiskey highball.
Jeez.
Yeah, he did. He's a very generous man.
Wow, that's crazy. He hasn't done that for me. What? Dude, seriously. You're not even going to make it through this segment. Listen.
It's my 4th today, so.
When is the Oscars?
Yes, the Oscars. I think it's on Sunday, right?
Wait, honestly, this coming Sunday?
Yeah.
All right.
This Sunday.
I didn't know that.
Will Mark Maron be there? Will he be at the ceremony since he's in an Oscar-nominated film?
I am pretty sure he will go there. He looks good in a tuxedo, so any excuse, I think. But yeah, maybe.
Wow.
I think he's been to a couple of them already. That's the world he lives in.
Wait a second. Oh yeah, he's in a movie that was not okay. I hadn't even.
Did Leslie get a nomination? I don't
for
even
Leslie
know.
or
for the actress.
To Leslie.
Yeah,
not
the actress. Oh, that's right. The whole controversy of whether she was, unfairly signal boosted by somebody. Yes, I recall that.
Yeah. It's
there was a little kerfuffle over whether or not she was nominated through, the morally righteous process that the Oscars are normally nominating.
Right.
through.
The nomination process for them is never political or about connections or lobbying efforts.
It was a
Yeah.
scandal.
Right.
It was a scandal. Which I hear very good things. I have yet to see that movie. You know, listen, I'll probably make my best of 2022 film list sometime around 2032 because, you know, I'm watching all the old movies, all the foreign films, all the things I haven't seen up to this point. And it's just the few that filter through the zeitgeist after 10 years. Usually those are the ones worth checking out to me. So right now I'm in the wilderness. You know, I come on here every year and say F the Oscars. Sometimes I use the whole word, but it's fun to watch a celebrity show sometimes.
What are can you guys get a list of what have been nominated? Because to be honest with you, I have no idea. I know that one about the Irish guys, the Donegans of the
Banshees
of the Donegans.
The Donegans.
In a Sharon.
In a Sharon.
Guys you went to high school with, Sam.
I watched that movie because it was streaming. I had no idea. I thought it was an old movie. Benjamin told me to watch it. I found it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable.
It's a successor to In Bruges, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
It's the same director. I know that. He has
I
sort
liked
of
In
like
Bruges.
an Irish
It very much had a play. That seems to be the big thing right now. Movies that are like plays. Have you noticed that?
I haven't noticed that, but
The
I actually love
Whale
movies
was
that are
like that.
plays.
I watched The Whale a while back. That was a play. That felt like a play. Maybe it was a play. I don't know. The Banshees felt like a play. Maybe it was a play. I'm not even sure.
Also, that movie that came out, The Fences, I know that was a while ago, but I don't really like those movies that are plays to movies because it always feels like the actors are projecting as if they're in a play, or it's so small where like the universe doesn't expand enough, and I'm like, I prefer when the movie is a little bit more movie-esque as opposed to play-esque.
Like the new Ant-Man. Is that what you mean?
No, not like that.
No? All right, because that's super expansive. That goes everywhere. That's crazy. They go down to a molecular level, and it's
the quantum realm.
It was.
But I like the Banshees movie.
I went that with Saul, and it drove me crazy. So wait, now was any of the Marvel movies, were they nominated, or was this another year where Marvel gets shut out by the Oscars?
Yeah, I know, Sam.
Do we not have a list? Nobody.
I haven't.
Actually, I know the big movie that's gotten a lot of buzz and has won a lot of other awards already is the sort of kung fu time travel comedy, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is one of the few films from this year that I saw and I enjoyed, but it doesn't strike me as a piece of serious.
Was that
cinema.
a comedy?
Yeah, it was like a kung fu sort of multi-universal kind of comedy.
What did you think of the
movie. If you like Jackie Chan and his stuff, you would love.
Hold on, go back up to the top here. Let's see. All Quiet on the Western Front. That sounds like a movie I might want to see.
It's a remake of a novel.
All right. Avatar. I'm going to watch that. Saul and I will end up watching that. I think
3.5 hours.
Yeah, 3.5 hours.
Yes.
Maybe we won't be watching that. I don't know. Maybe if we both get COVID. Elvis. Did they really do an Elvis movie?
Yes. Baz
Luhrmann.
The crazy Australian director.
I can't stand him.
Yeah.
Gail Berman, is she one of the producers? Because she was one of the producers at ABC back in the day. I think she was like an ABC executive. I worked with her a little bit. Let's see what else we got. Everything Everywhere All at Once. Didn't see that. Sorry. The Fabelmans.
Yeah. Spielberg's biopic, autobiographical movie.
But he has a girlfriend in this one.
Oh, see? Idealized.
All right, let's see. Scroll back up here. What else we got?
And Tar, the one about the conductor. That one is probably the next one on my list.
Wow.
But
all right.
I liked In the Bedroom that he did. Yeah, the Oscars, we all are familiar with the origin of the Oscars, right? It was an attempt to bust the unions that they were trying to form at the time by saying, well, if we just give them all awards, maybe they won't want to actually unionize.
Recognition, baby. That's all people need.
Exactly. It was the pizza party of Hollywood in the early 20th century. So
everybody knows the Golden Globes are the only ones that are on the up and up.
That's right. The foreign press are beyond reproach. Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that.
But there's a million trillion movies that are out there better to see this weekend than any of the ones that are nominated for the Oscars. I'm sorry to be the one to say that. No, I'm not. That's my brand proposition. But
so you didn't like
wait,
everything
we have three
everywhere?
more nominees. We have three more nominees.
I
Top
did like
Gun.
Everything Everywhere.
Top
Emma.
Gun Maverick was really. Wait a second. Top Gun was really nominated.
Yeah.
They expanded the field to like get more people into it, so that's why Avatar's in it too. They want these blockbusters to be a part of it, so more people tune in.
It started
Triangle
years ago with
Sadness.
The Lord of
Never
the
even
Rings.
heard of that. Never heard of that at all.
I watched that recently. It's sort of like it's one of these like sort of criticizing inequality movies, kind of like Glass Onion sort of thing. It's fine.
I've heard
Women
that
talking.
that's on my list, Matt.
I've heard of that. Didn't see it. I've heard the people I know who saw it were like, this is ridiculous. First of all, fundamentalist women don't talk this way, frankly. And they don't take one bucket of water at a time either. I guess that was another thing I heard, a criticism of that. That was all. I don't know.
The bucket technique was really unrealistic to history in that movie. So
yeah, there was I don't know. Anyways, so who's gonna win?
Anyway, so everything.
Matthew, who's gonna win?
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. That's going to win. Okay, put your money on that one.
No, I liked it, except for that weird anti-Semitic
Emma's
character.
betting on this.
Yeah, I don't. Well, there's no. I mean, the sports books don't offer it. So, but then
I'm sure if you ask your bookie,
I don't have a bookie.
Oh, come on.
I don't think any bookie would take my $20 bets. They'd be like, "Get the hell away and stop wasting my time."
The Oscars bookie.
Yeah. But what did you
I'm
think
sure
of
we get
that?
special concierge service from your bookie.
What was
I
that
see
weird?
a niche market we could fill here, Emma. We got to start a.
I
Oscars
know.
betting app.
I know, but what was that weird anti-Semitic character in that movie? That's my one take I want to ask. Like, I thought that was a really weird choice.
Well, I don't even remember who.
That
Jenny
might have been
Slate's
one year
character is named Big Nose in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I read that she was told about that beforehand, and that Big Nose is actually like the direct translation of what Chinese people may call like all Westerners. So it's not like specifically intended to be a Jewish slur. So I don't know.
All right. Anyway,
listen, that's not my big hang up about that movie. It's just it's a action kung fu comedy. It's not like award winning what you'd hope would be held up as the best that movies can do. It's fine and it was fun and I enjoyed it very much, but people are treating it like it's this, oh my God, so totally original work of genius cinema. And it's just like a fairly clever, but I didn't think they even used their great concept to its fullest extent. Even they had that, scene where they were going through the different film styles, which I enjoyed, but it was like a 3-star movie and people are going nuts over it. And I just don't get it.
It's one of those movies that does have like the reaction is almost part of the reception, that like people are kind of like religiously devoted to it in some of the fans of it. It's that like kind of like defines how I see how I like characterize my own enjoyment of the movie, but it's like people are crazy about this, but it's like good, but it's not like Citizen Kane.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, right. And even Citizen Kane is not Citizen Kane, but that's a whole other discussion. But listen, I got to see it before it was too far. The hype got too far, and I quite enjoyed it. And I'm really glad that the star of the movie is getting all of her sort of recognition after being, an actress in Hollywood and in Hong Kong films for many, many years. She's sort of outdoing her mentor, who was Jackie Chan, at his own game. So that's kind of fun to see. But, is that the Oscar? If you look at the history of the Oscars, the movies that used to win the Oscars used to actually be good movies, like serious movies trying to be about more than just keeping an audience mind-numbing entertained for 2 years. Yeah, in the olden days. In fact, one of the films that I showed in my class recently, and by the way, my class is starting up again. So if anybody's interested in seeing interesting and deep and really important films, not just entertainment films, which are also good, but if you want the other thing, join me there. But there was a movie in 1937 called Make Way for Tomorrow by Leo McCarey. And that was a winner of many awards at the time. And it's actually like a heart-rending, important kind of look at where we put our elderly, right? It's sort of like the parents can't afford their mortgage on their house; they have to move in with their kids, and it actually wrestles with real world, actual kind of conflict and emotional states and things that really actually hit home and aren't just sort of like turn off your mind for 2 hours. And that was made in Hollywood. It was before Hollywood, I think, basically decided they don't need to actually try so hard to make things that actually appeal to people's real lives. And, now it's just churning out more and more spectacle. And that's the ones being nominated like Top Gun and Everything Everywhere All at Once. So,
yeah, I mean, but Matthew, Ant-Man had some like issues where the father-daughter argued, and that rang pretty true to me too.
yeah, you argue with your daughter?
Well, just like when she's like using the,
Well, I
she's
didn't
going
see it.
too
Spoiler.
far on her scientific experiments, and may have opened up a portal to a molecular world that exists, much smaller than us, and I don't know. That just resonated with me.
Okay. You may be onto something there. I'm open to being corrected. Thank you, Sam. That's very insightful.
I'm just saying there are still movies out there that
Yeah.
have been
Yeah.
where but I guess that's your point, is that those movies don't get chosen anymore. The ones that really
Parasite won
capture
last.
that dynamic.
Parasite won
Yeah.
last year.
Parasite was pretty good. That was pretty good.
That was 2 years
But
ago.
see,
Coda-
here's the
Coda
thing.
won
This is
that.
I sound like a nut job because people are like, "Oh, Parasite, that's one of the best movies ever." And there are better movies. There are movies that are maybe a little bit more difficult, a little bit more ask a little bit more of the audience, that don't necessarily get the PR campaign that others do. And no diss on Parasite at all, but even that is like it's like you're in the desert and you get like a cracker and you're like, oh my God, this is a wonderful meal. And it's true. It's a delicious thing to have in a desert, but it gets better. It gets bigger. And what can I say? The Oscars are just sort of more marketing for bad movies, but if you enjoy
Matt,
it, by all means.
What would you recommend as a corrective for this weekend to watch when other people are up there sort of getting caught up in this is the thing with the red carpet too, right? Like watching like who's wearing who, and like, oh my God, I can't believe she showed up with him, or he showed up with her, or he showed up with him and she showed up with her, whatever it is.
Mark Maron.
Yeah. Who's Mark Maron is he gonna take his mom? I don't think so. But
I mean, he sort of takes his mom everywhere with him wherever he goes.
I am exactly. His mom will be there, but just not actually in person. Maron's. Do you think Maron's going to take? Do you think like Maron will be on the red carpet? Won't he? I'd watch it just to see that.
I don't. Yeah, I think maybe I'll just find out if he is. Maybe I'll.
We got to get a clip. Somebody should clip that for us, because I'd be curious, like, to see who he's
wearing. Oh,
well, he's going to wear.
I think he is seeing someone, so perhaps it'll be his significant other.
That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting.
This gossip's more this good.
All right, but so what should people watch aside from trying to see who Maron shows up with there? What should people try and watch to sort of like push back culturally?
Yeah,
on
like
this,
it's just to expand your brain.
Exactly.
Like, listen, I make a space for. Some movies I say are like going to a basketball game, which I love. And some movies are more like going to your house of worship, which is a little bit different vibe. It's still people all gathered together in a room, but you're doing different things with your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions. And one movie that I think is actually one of the best, in my class, which again, you can go to my Twitter at Langdon Boom and come sign up and join us. New movie every Tuesday. We have a discussion. And there's a lot of 5-star movies that I've seen recently. And one of them is a Mexican movie from 2012 called Post Tenebras Lux, which is, I think, Latin for After Darkness Light. And it's by a filmmaker named Carlos Regadas. And it is, again, these movies sort of defy explanation, but I'll try to give you the sort of elevator pitch. It's about a upper middle class Mexican family who move out to the sort of wilderness of Mexico, the sort of hills, and it's about ostensibly their interaction between them and their family, who they have young kids, and the locals who they hire to work on their really like fancy house. And yet it's also a kind of meditation on toxic masculinity, you know, a lot of things that would appeal to a politically sensitive crowd like your audience, Sam.
Sounds like Straw Dogs.
It's not quite Straw Dogs-ish, but there's a little bit of that. But the filmmaking itself, the style, the way he tells the story is so, it's more in the sort of vein of Tarkovsky or Sokurov, kind of more poetic. The images are sort of got a halo effect around them. Sometimes you don't know if it's sort of dream or reality, and not in a cheesy way, like he wakes up, oh, it was all a dream. It's extremely engaging. It's extremely affecting. And it was one of the most profound experiences I've seen in a movie for quite a while, actually. So if you guys are into that kind of thing, it's I think it's available on some streaming services. I'm not totally sure, but seek out Post Tenebras Lux for a real antidote to the kind of Oscar movie, even the good Oscar movies that are
Post Tenebras Lux.
Yeah, and actually, another thing that came to mind when you said you didn't like play movies, Emma. There's a movie that actually was another one that we saw that's much more down to earth, and it was by the playwright Kenneth Lonergan. Have you heard of the movie Margaret?
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of it?
Yeah, I don't even remember anything about it though.
Okay.
Anna Paquin?
Oh,
Yeah, Anna
why.
Paquin. Yeah, she kind of
like
has
her.
a traumatic thing happen to her, and it winds up being this incredible give and take between her and her mother, who's played by J. Smith Cameron, who you might know from Succession.
Jerry.
Yeah.
And it has the sort of DNA of a play, but I think it escapes the sort of thing you were thinking of, like where the world is very small, even though it mostly takes place on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. But
and Kieran Culkin's in it too, so I guess
there you go.
that's a Succession. They worked together like 10 years ago before the show.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's amazing in it. That's another like a 5-star movie that it went through a lot of sort of troubles getting out into the world, but once it did, it was I thought one of the best American movies of the last 10 or 15 years.
Whoa, Lonergan, huh?
Yeah. Do you ever know him, Sam? Kenneth Lonergan?
I auditioned for him. I think, like, specifically went in to audition for him for a play that, not a play, for a movie that Mark Ruffalo ultimately got cast in.
Okay.
But I remember it had Ruffalo's character, because I was auditioning for that character, had just come from Worcester. And so I was super excited.
You thought, I have this. I got this nailed. I'm actually
I'm
from
like,
Worcester.
dude.
Was it You Can Count on Me, Sam? Do you remember?
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
With
But
Laura
that was
Linney,
like
2002?
30 years ago, right? Yeah, Lauren Linney.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love that movie. Good one. I wish you were in it.
Me too. Like they
She's
were
great.
brother
She
sister,
was,
right? If I remember correctly.
By our neighborhood, Bradley. Anyway, sorry.
They
I
were
see her
brother
around.
sister, right? Yeah. So just, that didn't happen for me. A lot of stuff didn't happen for me. So, here we are. So
That Mark Ruffalo's got good politics too.
Yeah, Ruffalo's got good politics. I mean, I don't hold it against him.
Yeah. I interviewed him once at a
I can't tell you how many things that, like, if you took like Ruffalo, Bateman, Rudd, like there was so many people who had to pass away before I could get a job. That's when I was like, I got to move into writing, because this is not, there's so many guys ahead of me that are going to get cast in these parts. And I just, there's not enough buses for all these people to go away. So
It's funny you say that. Ruffalo plays a bus driver in Margaret, so maybe there's a connection there.
there you go. Matthew Film Guy, it is always a treat. People, we will put links to all of your different sundried endeavors, tchotchke sales,
Yeah, come support me
letterbox,
by buying my crap on eBay. That'd be great.
letterbox.
Talk movies with me on Letterbox. That's the cool thing.
Next time we'll get an update on what's going on the career side.
Definitely. And listen, as far as career goes, this show, it's increasing my fame. I think I may have mentioned when I saw you guys at the Give Them an Argument Revolution show. But I went to go see Memoria, which is a great movie that was playing at the IFC. And then afterwards I said, oh, look, here's the new cannabis dispensary that just opened up down the block. Let me go in and see what I can do for the novelty, of course. And as I'm walking out of the line, someone goes, Matthew Film Guy. So your crowd is right on top of things. And that's where
Our
your
peeps
voice-
are everywhere. Our
Yeah.
peeps are everywhere.
Yeah, that made it all worth it for me to get recognized in the cannabis shop line. So thank you, Sam.
Matthew Film Guy. Just going in to check it out.
Just check it out. Now that it's legal.
Okay, well, bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Folks, we're going to take a quick break, head to the fun half, wherein we will take your IMs. We might take your calls, but I'm not sure. I don't want to lie.
We have some fun clips to get to. So
We got too many clips to get to. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member. Go to jointhemajorityreport.com. During the break, we will put a QR code up there, and you just flash your phone at it, like you take your camera picture thing and camera, I guess, and show it, and then click on the link, and then you can join the Majority Report at jointhemajorityreport.com. Remember, it's your support that helps this show survive and thrive. Also, you get the free half, free of commercials. You get the fun half. You can IM the show through our app. Our app is free, but when you're a member, you can use it to IM us. Join themajorityreport.com. Also, don't forget justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code and get 10% off. Somebody was asking on the IMs about the coupon code for the Benjamin's thing. I don't know if we're going to get a coupon code, but we may get some type of special offer associated with it. There's a lot of taxes, I guess, or like fees if you're going to ship out of state.
Stinking regulations.
Regulations just cutting into small business is really a real shame.
Shipping alcohol, you're saying?
Well, it's shipping canned alcohol. Like and of course Benjamin has the business skills that I have, and so he's like, I didn't know, and I'm like, you never checked that? It? Like, how did you think you were going to sell it? Whatever, through word of mouth. I'm like, word of mouth, like, but if you can't ship it, like, if it's, he's like, it's good whiskey, and I'm like, it is good whiskey. It is very good whiskey. It's a little strong. Emma, what's happening on ESPN?
Well, we spoke at length about the franchise tag deadline, Derek Carr's deal, the NFLPA's different report cards on each workplace in the NFL. But on Monday, I'm very excited because we need to dive deep into this Lamar Jackson contract situation, what it means as a labor dispute with players representing themselves versus ownership, antitrust, collusion, all that kind of good stuff, plus more things we'll be talking about. youtube.com/ESPN show.
And Matt Leck Media.
At patreon.com/Left Reckoning, David and I talked to Ange from Australia about running for office in the parliamentary system in Australia, as well as talk about Randy Zuckerberg, who a year ago was saying we're all going to make it and doing Twisted Sister pro NFT songs. And now she's doing COVID relief government relief sort
scams.
of PSAs.
Oh.
It's kind of scams, kind of PSAs. But
okay.
yeah, so, we clock the rise and fall of Mark Zuckerberg's sister and what it means for Silicon Valley. I mean, actually, in the wake of the Silicon Valley Bank thing, it might be very interesting. But anyway, patreon.com/Left Reckoning.
All right, quick break. Be right back with the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Oh no! Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman!
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back the DJ.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Denner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense.
You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males.
Psych. Fuck them. Oh.
Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on, fuck them. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy.
I have a thought experiment for you.